4.5 stars, 259 reviews, QuickBooks apps. 4.8 stars, 863 reviews, Shopify App Store. 5 stars, 456 reviews, BigCommerce App Store. Finally, we have a real undo option. The solution is a game changer for anyone doing bookkeeping on the cloud. Jeannie Whitehouse, CPA and international keynote speaker. Knowing that any unwanted changes or transactions can be rewound back in time is a lifesaver. Kelly Parks, Calm Waters Cloud Accounting. Stay tuned to hear more from our sponsor, Rewind, later in the episode.
My former employer, FloQast, raised $110 million this year at a unicorn over $1 billion valuation. I'm very happy about that, given that I own stock in FloQast. I'm no longer work there. I'm not sure how I would feel if I did, if I was on the marketing team right now over at FloQast, because do you want to know what they did with a good chunk of that $110 million that they raised? Today is Sunday, December 19th. This is the Cloud Accounting Podcast. I'm Blake Oliver.
And I'm David Leary.
Merry Christmas, David.
I've already gotten my gift. Merry Christmas to you and happy holidays.
You received your gift.
I've received my gift. Yeah. This is not an English podcast, so don't get me on this.
What did you get?
My interns worked on Friday for 4 hours.
You were telling me you hired some interns.
Yep. So they're accounting majors. They interned at BDO over the summer. I think they're juniors. Maybe they're going to be seniors. Don't
you should probably know this.
The math stuff, right? Like literally, they've never seen QuickBooks. They've never used apps. And I had them within 4 hours. They were using auto entry, using Receipt Bank, using Relay, and using QuickBooks Online. And one other app they had them using. I'm all caught up. There's nothing sitting around in auto entry or Receipt Bank anymore. And all my virtual cards from Divvy have been frozen and then recreated inside of Relay. Like they went in with no training in 4 hours. They knocked all that stuff out. It's so awesome.
Wow. I'm impressed.
So now the next step is to now start reconciling because I still can't get the bank statements from either PNC or Divvy into QuickBooks, or not bank statements, but my bank feed. So now we have to go get the bank statements and take those next steps. But this goes back to like talking about like practical knowledge, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've never seen QuickBooks. Like I probably taught them 3 years of education in a 4-hour afternoon.
Well, my question is, what was their reaction to all this?
I think they fundamentally get it that you don't want to have to type stuff in to the accounting system. I don't know if they fully digested it completely yet. But the great thing is like, this is what's sad, right? These students are coming out as accounting majors. They're super bright. They picked up on it instantly, could navigate, jump around the apps. You know, they have the technical chops to do this. And they probably aren't going to get that when they go to work for a big firm or something.
No, they'll spend 6 months auditing cash.
I don't know. That's what I told them. Like, you're just going to get real world experience from this. Like real deal, real stuff. And I'm probably the typical like small business owner. They're asking me, what's this transaction? And like, why did you use this credit card just as one random time? And why this receipt 6 times? I don't know. I forwarded the internet I bought on an airplane email like 10 times apparently. I kept getting the email and I kept forwarding it.
I feel good about the holidays because I did all my Christmas shopping yesterday on Saturday. Got it all done in one day. It was a miracle.
Online? Did you do the?
We drove around in person. We did some online. Didn't have the kid for the day, so we're able to get an amazing amount of work done. Santa is all ready. You know, the stockings are going to be stuffed, and I feel like I can actually relax. Oh, and the big thing is the Earmark app has been submitted to both Google Play and Apple App Store. It's in review.
All right, so that's the next step of this process.
Well, and hopefully by the time our listeners hear this episode, at least one, if not both of those apps will be live in the app stores, in their respective app stores.
So do they review it early on in the process when you're just in the beta still? Or
Not
is this
until
like you wait till now and now it's starting the review from scratch?
When you submit is when they review. But they're pretty quick about it. It's within a day, 48 hours with Apple. They'll tell me if there's anything wrong with the app, and then I'll go back and we'll make changes. But hopefully they don't find any issues.
It's a rapid turnaround, yeah. Depends on like who you use to help you build the app, if they were familiar with that process.
Yes, that probably would help, right? Of course, I'm not.
Unfortunately, there's a bunch of people that are not going to have a good Christmas. If
What's
you are a company or an employee of a company that uses the Kronos HR
oh gosh.
systems.
Yes, I heard about this. The ransomware attack. Another big ransomware attack hit Kronos. It's not called Kronos anymore because they merged with Ultimate Software. It's now Ultimate Kronos Group. They provide HR and payroll solutions to large employers. What do you know about this
So
hack?
kind of working it a little bit backwards. Apparently, there's some open source code out there that lots of companies use to run server-based stuff. And somebody discovered an exploit in it. And like, this is one of the worst exploits somebody's ever discovered. Everybody's being attacked. And they went really hard at Kronos. And so Kronos, if you're familiar with it, is like timesheet, HR, payroll software stuff. They didn't communicate well. They basically have told their customers to implement their, what do they call it? What's the word they actually used here?
Oh, it was like contingency business continuity protocols.
Yes.
Yeah,
Even though they didn't have any themselves.
This is probably the quote you were looking for. This is the one that stuck out to me. Quote, given that it may take up to several weeks to restore system availability, we strongly recommend that you evaluate and implement alternative business continuity protocols related to the affected UKG solutions. That's what they basically told their customers.
In the comment threads on their blog post, people are on fire about that type of a comment. And to the point where the vice president's coming in and replying to people personally in the threads.
Now, on their own website?
Yeah. And so what it is, apparently, it's this thing called Kronos Private Cloud. I'm like,
yes.
Okay, what is this? So I start working backwards and actually go to the website for us. Kronos Private Cloud, they refer to as KPC Security. Kronos offers a hosting environment built upon a secure infrastructure which undergoes examinations from independent auditor in accordance with AICPAs, and then has all the SOC compliance.
Mm-hmm.
Blah, blah, blah,
SOC
blah,
2 probably.
SOC 2, SOC 3, and privacy and all these types of things. It's located in third-party data centers, blah, blah, blah. But here we go again, right?
It's hosting.
You outsource your tech, your IT, on these host environments, and they fail again.
It's because hosting is not true cloud. It's fundamentally insecure. That's what this was. It was a shared environment, or it was an environment where maybe you had your own server, but obviously the hackers were able to get into the whole system and block it all down with ransomware. But yeah, it's not true SaaS.
My understanding is on the Kronos is like a physical machine for clocking in and out you could have on-prem. But it
connects to that.
It phones home. And so you're seeing IT people that are like, I'm shutting down all ports. Like, I won't even let your devices call out anymore. And then you can't even use these devices without it phoning home. It's super messy, and shame on them because this has been going on now for everybody in these hosted environments getting ransomware.
And what a terrible time of year for this to happen for payroll and timekeeping, because they became aware of it on December 11th. They're saying that it's not going to be fixed before the end of the year. This is when HR departments are scrambling to close out the year so they can issue the year-end forms. And
year-end forms, but not only that, like paychecks the week of Christmas.
Yeah.
How about that? Yeah. Right? And a lot of people do Christmas bonuses, those types of things. It is not a good situation. I think companies are just having to manually calculate payroll and cut paper checks, assuming they even have paper checks to write payroll with.
I don't know how they're doing it. Affected companies mentioned in CFO.com are City of Cleveland, Tesla, Temple University, Clemson University, the UK supermarket chain Sainsbury's, and the New York Metropolitan Transportation Authority. And apparently UKG told the City of Cleveland that the ransomware attack may have also compromised employee information like names, addresses, social security numbers, and employee IDs. So that creates a huge risk now for those clients.
As of right now, they've shut everything down, but there's no sign they've gotten things back online. Are the backups corrupted? And I'm just kind of shaking my head. Like, here we go again.
And I just want to be very clear about what I mean when I say this is, and what we mean, you and me, David, when we say private cloud versus true SaaS. This is their desktop software that has been hosted on remote servers that are managed by UKG, Kronos, or some subsidiary or third party that they've contracted with. It's really essentially not that different than if you hosted it in your own office. It's just you're giving that job to somebody else.
Well, and the reason you're giving the job to somebody else is because you're sold the bill of promises that they're going to make it more secure. And I don't think you're any more secure or less secure by having it up there. Because
it could be worse.
I think actually you're probably less secure, because if you had it in-house and that server was back there and you looked at it every day, you'd be like, I probably should set myself up with a backup plan or just a secondary, this alternative contingency plan. Yeah. But if you don't have it, you're just assuming it's all being handled for you. I mean, that's what you're paying for.
Yeah. You're paying for
that's the problem I have with
security.
all this. This keeps happening, and you're paying. This is the only thing you're paying for is their security of this, to maintain the security of this server. Well, that's why you're outsourcing this.
And the convenience, right, of not having to maintain it yourself and all that. But the security is the weak point there, I think. Hopefully they can get this fixed. They'll probably just end up paying the ransom, right? Which is what most companies do. They just pay the ransom and then they hope they get the data back.
Yeah, it just is a ransomware incident. Obviously, they're not clear on it. They'll probably have to pay but this is going for, these are pretty big businesses. People are not going to.
No, it's going to create a big year in, like you said, the Christmas checks, right? The bonus checks. Like, what's going to happen? Is Christmas canceled for these people?
This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Tally4. Tally4 is the tax flow tool empowering CPA firms to automate the tax trial balance, allowing them to save hours on each return by flowing the data from the books to the trial balance to the tax forms in 3 easy steps: import, adjust, and file. Import. Tally4 can connect to Xero, both QuickBooks Online and desktop, Sage Intacct, or Excel to pull the trial balance automatically. Adjust. Your accounting and tax teams can collaborate to make all the necessary tax-based adjustments to the trial balance. You can even distribute and assign the work accordingly. File. Once the tax trial balance is completed and approved, Tally4 can automatically send the trial balance data to any of the leading tax software apps that you may be using, including UltraTax, Lacert, Drake, CCH Axis, Engagement, and ProSystem FX. Tally4's import, adjust, and file process will help you reduce the time it takes to create a tax return from multiple hours to just minutes. To learn more about using Tally4 in your CPA firm, head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/Tally4. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/TALLYFOR.
Let's continue on this trend then of the negative news, or the news that might cancel Christmas. And then we'll get into the positive stuff, right? We'll have our warm fireside present opening. So first we're gonna go like through this Scrooge kind of narrative. Well, here's something that may upset folks in the Xero world, or just users of HubDoc. HubDoc is shutting down Fetch. They sent out an email back on December 1st that was forwarded to me by a listener. Thank you, Eric. It says, important update on fetching documents in HubDoc, blah, 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 blah. Banks and suppliers are increasingly restricting what the fetch functionality can do. This means that fetch connections don't always work.
I was going to say, shutting down, that implies like it's been working amazingly for the last 4 years.
And I should probably explain what I mean by fetch. Fetch is when HubDoc or similar apps log into your bank account and grab bank statements and other documents such as check images and pull them into the system so that they can be processed with all your other invoices and receipts that you forwarded in. Yeah, Fetch is one of those things that, has anyone figured this out, David? No one has, I think.
You're basically screen scraping the bank websites to grab this data. And every time they change the screen, the UI, but now the banks are purposely blocking these things.
Right, because the banks have built their own APIs now and are shutting down the insecure connections, which, probably shouldn't exist, right? Screen scraping is so insecure. But yeah, because of this, HubDoc has, quote, because of this declining performance, we've made the difficult decision to close most fetch connections on April 27th, 2022. Come end of April, they are shutting down Fetch. Direct connections with Bank of America, Wells Fargo, and Stripe will continue, and they do plan to build and introduce more direct connections to HubDoc to better meet expectations for accuracy and efficiency. But yeah, if you're using one of those hundreds of banks that does not have a direct connection through Xero's APIs and HubDoc's APIs, you're not going to have it. All the documents that have been previously fetched will remain in HubDoc. So really, it's basically turning HubDoc into processing via upload or email. That's what it will allow you to do.
Yeah, and I think AutoEntry went down this path. They partnered with somebody to do Fetch, and they wound up pulling back on it. It's so unreliable that you're better off just telling people down
it.
manually down your statements, upload your statements, let us either HubDoc, Receipt Bank, auto entry, scan them, and then give you good results versus the giving you the impression it may work, because it's actually a worse experience when it doesn't download them.
So one of our sponsors has a solution that could help. If you have heard Clienthub advertising on our show, they have a feature where you can task clients every month automatically, create a task for them to give you the bank statement. While kind of annoying to have to do that rather than just be able to go get it yourself, that's a helpful thing. So
I wish the banks would just email them. Then people could automate these things, right?
Well,
but they'll mail it in the mail, a physical copy in the mail, but they won't email you a PDF. If they just emailed PDFs out, you could forward those to apps like Receipt Bank. There's so much you could do.
The problem is email's like a postcard. So it'd be like sending a bank statement without an envelope. That doesn't work security-wise. The other solution is use Relay.
But yeah, you just get a real bank. Like get a bank that cares about cloud accounting, cares about accountants and bookkeepers. Exactly. That's why I'm done for 2022. I cannot fight with apps and crappy bank feeds and all this stuff anymore.
Well, you don't want to fight with banks and crappy apps, but there are two companies anyway, that want to fight. And that is H&R Block and Square. And you predicted this, David, weeks ago.
Episodes ago. Yeah.
Weeks ago, you said H&R Block is going to sue Square. Why did you say that? What is this story?
H&R Block advertises as Block a lot of times.
Yes.
Right? It's kind of their
higher Block.
They're 60-year-old company. That's their edge, right? When they want to be cool, going after the millennials, they just call themselves like Block. And so they have a tax product. Obviously, H&R Block does. Remember, Square bought Credit Karma's tax product when Intuit acquired Credit Karma, and they rebranded it to Cash App Tax. It's a free tax product, competes directly with H&R Block's tax product. H&R Block also has a banking services. They basically have their own neobank, just like everybody else does. And so there's that big overlap. Essentially, their argument is that Square's capitalizing on the goodwill and consumer trust cultivated by Block since 1955.
Well, and you forgot the most important part, I think, which is that Square just rebranded to Block.
Oh yeah, sorry. That's the thing that
Jack Dorsey was splitting his time between Twitter and Square. Talk about an overachiever, right? To being CEO of two of these massive companies at once. He left Twitter to focus entirely on Square, and he really believes in blockchain technology and cryptocurrency. So that was the reason, I take it, for the rebrand. Now it's not Square, it's Block. And you're saying that because Square, now Block, has a tax prep product, that H&R Block is not going to stand for this. It's totally...
H&R Block saying that they're already experiencing consumers that are confused. I don't know if that's true or not, but they're stating that. And then, I don't want to say Square, Block, formerly known as Square, they had a Twitter post talking about the name actually represents neighborhood blocks. Like, so on your block, you're going to find sellers. You're going to find blockchain. You might find a block party of music.
Really? That's
comment and obstacles. I don't even know what the hell the obstacles are, but they have that. So they're really trying to make Square be this like Block, be this like existential thing. Now, here's the funny thing. H&R Block, I talked about, they have their own digital bank account. So they partnered to do that with a company called Meta Financial. Now, here's the really funny part of this. So who just rebranded to Meta?
Facebook.
So Facebook had to pay Meta Financial. And so Meta gave up all rights to their naming for $60 million.
That's a pretty good price.
It's kind of funny that H&R Block now is kind of in both ends of these massive rebrands of these two massive tech companies. Now, here's the thing. This is going to settle. How much is H&R Block going to get? If Meta Financial, who nobody even knew existed, got $60 million from Facebook, they're going to get $500 million, $1 billion out of this deal.
So H&R Block is a public company, right? What is their market cap? Okay, I just looked it up. $4.19 billion. So they're not going to go quietly.
Oh, Jack could just buy them and be done.
Do I say
they spent $29 billion on Afterpay?
They spent a lot of money, yeah.
$4 billion is nothing.
Square, now Block's market cap is $77 billion. They should just buy H&R Block.
Wow.
Then they could have tax services for their crypto clients. There you go.
All right, you heard it here first. Like, actually, it makes a lot of sense.
And then Block
this is all set up.
They'd own Wave, so they'd own a GL. Right, because H&R
Square
Block
would get
bought
their
Wave.
GL. They get their GL.
I mean, a bad one, but right.
They would get other things in the block because, and these little city blocks, they keep imagining what's on every corner of these little city blocks.
An H&R.
Your tech shop,
Yeah.
exactly. This actually makes a lot of sense.
And maybe
So-
it'll happen. If it happens, you heard it here first.
Block will acquire HR Block. I've heard it here first. Or it's going to be a massive settlement. But if their market cap's only $4 billion, there's got to be a point where, like, why would they settle?
Well,
and
we'll
buy
just have
them?
to
This would be cheaper.
leave that to our predictions. We've made one prediction for 2022, and we'll follow up with that on our next episode, the year-end episode where we do our predictions. But I want to move on now to one of your favorite websites, David. This is a site that you have
Are we
used.
still in the bad news category, or are you moving?
Well, I think it is actually. Bad
Okay.
news.
I still have bad news too, so continue.
Okay, good.
This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Rewind. As a listener of the Cloud Accounting Podcast, I'm sure you're familiar that Rewind has been successfully protecting thousands of small businesses' QuickBooks Online data from malicious attacks, buggy apps, bad data imports, and of course, ourselves. Human error, the number one reason people lose data. Backing up clients' data is a great idea for your clients. It protects them. But did you know that making backups of client data also helps protect your firm and lowers your fiduciary risk? Rewind makes restoring data easy too. You can restore an entire QuickBooks Online file or just one transaction. Rewind's copy feature can be used to copy essential data from one QuickBooks Online company file to another. No more starting clients from scratch. You can essentially restore a backup with your preferred chart of accounts and other lists into a new QBO file. Say goodbye to making manual copies of client files and CVS imports. Rewind offers you one login to access all your clients, the ability to manage your team with permissions and controls, and offers around-the-clock support. To learn even more about Rewind and access a special offer just for listeners of the Cloud Accounting Podcast, head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/rewind. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/REWIND. Rewind. Protect your data, protect your business.
So payments.com, you've found a lot of articles. You've sourced a lot of stories from there because you're in the payments world. What with your experience working at Melio, they do a lot of payments stuff, fintech stuff. They did their own survey recently, and payments found that just 30%, so less than a third of small and medium businesses have begun to automate their accounts payable processes to deploy instant payments, compared to 58% of larger businesses. So almost twice as many large businesses have adopted payment automation, instant payments. Only 30% of SMBs have done that. And I just thought that was an interesting data point. I mean, that's a big difference.
I saw an article I read this weekend that I didn't bring it to the show because it felt a little inside baseball, but about how next day ACH isn't good enough. Small businesses are going to start demanding, they're used to this instant deposit stuff, and they really need the instant deposits. This is the next wave we're going to see with payments with small businesses is they'll adopt if they know they're going to get the money instantly. They can't have these 3-4 day windows for ACH, or even next day ACH isn't fast enough. They really want the instant money transfers. In the same way, if I pay you through Venmo, you can instant deposit it through your debit card.
Yeah, that's what people are used to now.
That's going to really push this next. That's the next wave. I read an article kind of pushing that way. Something that got a lot of people upset this week was Intuit. Jan Roberg on Twitter, Roberg Tax, ROBERGTAX. She posted a letter from Intuit with the title of the letter, "We're hiring. Earn additional income working from your home or office." This letter was mailed to her employees at her firm's address.
Let me get this straight. Intuit, which has had, they've been in trouble in the past for marketing to the clients of pro advisors. Supposedly, if your client is linked to you as an accountant in QuickBooks, then Intuit has said we're not going to sell QuickBooks Live to your clients. That's like a commitment they made, but they have like failed to do that many, many times, right? For whatever reason, it just keeps happening. So now you're telling me that after all that, Intuit is mailing pitches or like offer letters or just advertisements to my employees at my firm's office?
That's what happened. So I'll read her actual exact tweet. "Hey Intuit, ! Thanks for sending job offer letters to my employees at my office's address. Seriously? If you want to poach my employees, at least use their home address. Yes, they're awesome and you do not deserve them. And of course, this got everybody fired up on Twitter, and I actually tweeted on top of it because I was thinking about this a lot. Shame on Intuit for doing this, right? Yes, totally shame on Intuit. But Intuit wouldn't have done this if they didn't test it first. They're a big, huge marketing company. They probably sent 100 of these out once and got responses. And so that's why they did it again. And they did it massively. All these people on Twitter are like, I got them too. It's because they work. So really, in a way, like, do we shame the firm owners whose underappreciated, underpaid staff are jumping at these offers?
I mean, it's just, come on. It's like, can you imagine any other vendor, any other software developer sending out offer letters to our employees, our staff accountants at our offices in December, in November, before tax season, trying to recruit them? Can I read some of this letter?
I think the important part to read really is the benefits, those bullets, right?
And I have to agree with you, David. Like, if your staff are actually attracted to this, then that means that you've got a retention problem. Because we know that actually that TurboTax Live does not pay very well. Like, it's bottom of the market. But it is flexible, right? So that's like the perk. The headline is, we're hiring, right below the Intuit logo, we're hiring, earn additional income working from your home or office. Here at Intuit, we value your expertise as a tax professional and invite you to join Intuit's remote TurboTax Live team. You can continue to work remotely from your home or office, your choice.
And like your office, the one your other employer is paying for.
We provide an easy way for you to reach more customers who are looking for your TurboTax expertise. You can empower and educate customers, helping them to improve their financial success and gain confidence in their taxes. I think it's interesting that they're saying your TurboTax expertise, because like most professional tax people don't use TurboTax to do taxes. So like, why would you have TurboTax expertise?
Because they probably sent this to the people that are paying for the Pro Series TurboTax stuff.
While working remotely, you can earn an attractive hourly wage, plus overtime during peak hours, with a schedule that works best for you. And you can expand your skills with virtual training as you collaborate with fellow team members to solve tax challenges. And then it's got the interested, go here. You were going to talk about the benefits, David, right?
Yeah, so they list the benefits in this. And this is where I think if you're a firm owner, these are the things you need to compete on. So they talk about it's a work schedule that's right for you. You get Intuit employee benefits. And that, to be honest, being a former Intuit employee, it is the top of, nobody's probably even seen, especially if you just work for accounting and bookkeeping firms, you have not ever even imagined benefits like this before. It's like the gold standard. And then you get virtual training and you can work remotely, right?
Create a work schedule that's right for you. That's not something that you hear a lot from accounting firms in busy season.
But I found a related article that kind of came through for me this week. So this is actually a post that's on, it's a website called eFinancial Careers. It's some sort of job posting website of some type. This is a post by Intuit on this site, and it talks about Intuit's culture of positivity and inclusion enables tax and bookkeeping experts to help small business and small business consumers in navigating stressful financial decisions. And if you really read this, they profile 2 or 3 TurboTax Live or QuickBooks Live bookkeepers or accountants, and they profile them. And they're really talking about how, so this one person's name is Ku, has worked remotely in her home in Los Angeles. She joined in 2013. In May of 2020, she was offered a year-round position at Intuit. What she loves about it is the flexibility to choose a schedule that accommodates her personal life. She works early in the morning, allowing her to take care of her elderly parents later in the day, right? And it's just so flexible, and I'm so grateful. Another person's talking about, like, because these are the things people want. People want diversity, right? And it's talking about how they've consciously made an effort at Intuit to hire a diverse mix of cultures and backgrounds. And they also provide training on how to speak to other clients, regardless of their background, race, age, gender, sexual orientation. They talk about how the values of being supportive. You can reach out to any of your colleagues, managers, experts, and you're going to get support in the business units. So if your firm's not doing these types of things, continuing education, like they're helping them become enrolled agents. If you're not doing these things for your employees, of course Intuit's going to poach your employees. And Intuit's not secret about it. I mean, there's this blog post here says the values, what the employees are valuing.
Yeah, and I think the flexibility, I mean, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I think the flexibility is the winner, because a lot of firms still, even though we've gone through this whole remote work thing, are not offering flexibility in terms of hours. You may be able to work from home, but you still got to be on the clock. There was a Twitter thread. I'll take you to another Twitter thread, David.
Before you jump to that one, let me summarize this last powerful sentence they have in this. So, a career at Intuit is for those who want to help other people and leave clients feeling positive and valued, And this approach is twofold. What works for the clients is clearly also working for Intuit tax and bookkeeping experts. That's an amazing pitch line, right?
It's good messaging. It's good. Yeah.
To summarize it that simply, like, why would you want to work for my firm? You're going to be able to leave clients feeling positive and valued, and you're going to feel the same way.
Yeah, you're going to make a
Super
difference.
strong message.
Yep. It's good. It's good. I think
so you had a Twitter thread.
Well, it was related to the flexibility. So not so much the messaging, but just more like the practical thing about working for a firm. One of the things that sucks is the busy season schedule. And Brian Wolf, CPA, asked back on December 1st on Twitter, he said, hey, hashtag tax Twitter, do your firms have a no vacation time off policy during tax season, February 1st through April 15th, question mark. And he got quite a few responses, ranging from Josh Lance saying, we allow vacation time during tax season as long as it's planned for. We can manage capacity and expectations. Most everyone on our tax season will, I think he meant team, will take some vacation time during tax season. So there's one approach, right? It was just as long as you plan for it, you can do it. And then there's people that are like, absolutely not. Never. Are you kidding?
What's going to happen to those employees if they work for that firm and they get a letter from Intuit?
So those are the kind of employees who would say, whatever, I'll take the pay cut. I'll go work for Intuit because I get the ultimate flexibility of being able to set my own hours.
My understanding is Intuit lets them do the stock purchase plan. So you get to buy Intuit stock at 15% below market.
Oh, that's really good.
At the beginning of usually it's a 3-month or 6-month window.
Yeah.
So whatever the price is on June 1st, you get to buy it at that price. 15% below that price as it goes up. So even that is a hard thing to compete with. If that's the only thing they offer, the way Intuit stock's been.
This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Clienthub. Do you struggle to get answers from clients? Is it a chore reminding your clients to send over the information you need to do your job? Introducing Clienthub, an award-winning practice management solution for accountants looking to build better client relationships for a more profitable firm. Clienthub's all-in-one solution combines task management with client communication in one place, meaning you get what you need from clients to unblock workflow and get jobs completed on time. Your clients will love the easy-to-use Clienthub web portal and mobile app. Your team will love Clienthub's automated task management. Each month, Clienthub tasks your clients with whatever you need from them. You can even automatically ask your clients about uncategorized QuickBooks transactions. With Clienthub, tasks and messages are in one place, keeping your staff and clients always in the loop. Nothing falls through the cracks. Clienthub currently has an amazing offer just for our listeners. 25% off your first 3 months by using promo code CAP25. Head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/clienthub. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.promo/CLIENTHUB. We get to pivot our show, David, now that we're at about the halfway point, to redemption. What is positive this week? I know I have something that's,
jump right in.
Well, okay. This is just hilarious. And it's going to either be amazing or it's going to be a laughingstock. My former employer, FloQast, raised $110 million this year at a unicorn over $1 billion valuation. I'm very happy about that, given that I own stock in FloQast. I'm no longer work there. I'm not sure how I would feel if I was on the marketing team right now over at FloQast, because do you want to know what they did with a good chunk of that $110 million that they raised?
They finished that bank reconcile tool. They built some new way to manage your client relationship, or the monthly close. They did something to improve the monthly close. I'm just throwing some, like a tech start. You'd add a feature, hire product managers, some engineers.
Good guesses. I don't know if that's happened or will happen, but what did happen is that FloQast created a subsidiary called FloQast Studios. Yes, FloQast is located in Los Angeles. They have opened their own entertainment studio, and they have already produced a web series, a 6-episode web series called PBC, to be released in January. And the best way I can describe it from the trailer is that it is it's as if The Office was just a bunch of accountants. they clearly used the FloQast headquarters where I used to work as the setting for this during the lockdowns, I think. Yeah, it was.
And not only is it like The Office, they have two people from The Office in it,
Yeah.
which is kind of, I don't know.
Yeah,
It's like
Kate Flannery and Creed Bratton from The Office are regulars, apparently. Well, I don't know if they're regulars because they're not in the picture, but they're in this show. So they got them. They got Danny Trejo. My feeling on this is it's either going to be amazing. If it's funny, it's going to be amazing. Because everyone's always said, why aren't there any shows about accountants? Right? There's no shows about accountants. We've got doctors, we've got lawyers, all the professions.
Police
and firemen.
There's no shows about plumbers. There's no shows about construction people.
Plumbers, Super Mario Brothers, David. They have their own movie, but there's no accountants.
But that wasn't about their construction work or their plumbing work.
Well, none of these shows are about the actual work. Like, do you think like any of these medical shows are about the medicine? No,
that's true.
It's about the drama, the interpersonal drama. The studio is headed by entertainment industry executive Josh Sims and digital creator Drew Carrick, best known for his rapping CPA persona, who will be brainstorming and advising on creative content. Something to look forward to. It releases, I believe it's January 13th when it starts streaming. You can look for that on YouTube. They filmed it over 10 days in LA. I really want to know how much they spent on this, David.
Yeah, the article in Accounting Today has a quote at the end by Carrick, and it says, next year, if it's popular, maybe we pitch to Netflix. Like, this feels like the most LA thing, right? You know, like in LA, every waiter and waitress is an actor or actress. Is FloQast just a front? Because like the people, everybody at FloQast, founders, et cetera, they really want to be in the movie industry. And like FloQast was just an ends to a mean to get into the movie industry.
Well, you know, Mike Whitmire, CEO, founder at FloQast, he's an accountant. He used to work at he worked for one of the big four in auditing companies in like Santa Monica. He's from LA. This was one of those things that he would just like toss out during brainstorm meetings as like a funny idea, but like he actually did it. You know, I can't believe it actually happened. Like this
they set it up as a subsidiary, right? Like this is like a Dave Barrett Expensify move. You know what I mean?
Well, and maybe Expensify should buy FloQast. It would be perfect. They'd be a great cultural fit. Because, you know, what did Expensify go do recently? A few years ago, they went and spent what probably was their entire marketing budget for the year on a Super Bowl ad that featured 2 Chainz rapping. I wonder what kind of return that delivered. Probably nothing, right? Otherwise, we would have heard more about it. That's what I wonder about this. Is this actually going to, after spending millions of dollars, it has to be millions of dollars on this, is it going to deliver a meaningful return on investment?
Speaking of Expensify, I don't have a news article, but I did get a text, a cell phone photograph of a deck from the Expensify investor presentation.
Oh,
and
really?
Basically it has their roadmap from back in the day, you know, how they added travel and invoicing and bills and card, and now they're working on payroll and expenses.
Is this an old deck?
I just got the screenshot this week. And the thing that's still grayed out that they haven't started yet is accounting.
Yeah, that's inevitable, I think. I mean, given how ambitious...
They build out the super app. We've talked about super apps before.
Yeah, given how ambitious Barrett is, he wants to turn accounting into a conversation. I'll just chat
Maybe he should try to. Maybe he should make a play at HR Block. If you're building one of these super apps, maybe you should buy HR Block. This could be a very valuable property all of a sudden.
That's right. Well, I got another story about Expensify since we're on the topic. This headline is from CBSNews.com. At tech company Expensify, workers vote on each other's pay raises. So we've all known that Expensify is a very non-traditional company. There's only 140 people who work there, and that's one of the things that's amazing.
This, but this is like an article. It's like out in the public.
Yeah, I don't know how it came about, if they pitched it to the press or if it leaked and then they decided to go with it. Who knows? But it's a really deep dive, and they got a bunch of people to talk about it. Like Barrett's quoted. Here's how it works. If you work at Expensify, here's how you get paid. Negotiating for pay is banned. You cannot negotiate your pay at Expensify. When you get hired, it is set based on their internal metrics, and you either accept it or you don't. That's the first thing. Then you start working there. How does the comp review process work? At most companies, it's one of those things where it happens annually. You negotiate. Maybe you go get an offer and you use that as leverage. You know, all that traditional kind of stuff, right? Well, there's none of that at Expensify. Every 6 months, every employee at Expensify gets the choice, it's voluntary, to vote on compensation. So your compensation is set by your fellow employees. This includes, apparently, David Barrett. It's voluntary, and what you do is, if you're an employee, every 6 months, you log into some sort of app and you vote. And the way that you vote is that you see two cards on the screen side by side, an employee name and their accomplishments for the last 6 months, next to employee number 2 and their accomplishments for the last 6 months. And you're asked the question, who do you think should be paid more? And then you have to
the
click.
names. It just doesn't show the accomplishments.
No, it shows the names too. And you have to click on which one you think should be paid more. And you keep doing this until you have voted on every possible match, which means there's as many as 9,000 pairs that you have to vote on. So this process can take 10 hours per employee to go through this. 9,000 votes, right? So you sit there and you go through this for 10 hours. The quote about this from the head of marketing is incredible. Gabby Horowitz, she says, quote, "There definitely have been weekends when I spent my whole weekend doing comp review. It feels really important. It's a way we can all acknowledge and reward each other for our hard work," end quote.
I got our exit. We're going to make a show of what it's like to work at Expensify.
That would be a good show. That would be a really good show. They'd probably be in on it, right? They'd probably be happy to use the brand.
They can spin up their venture.
Oh my God. FloQast Studios could make the show. We'll produce it. First of all, I think it's funny that it takes 10 hours to do this, because that just seems like insane that you're going to have 140 employees spend 10 hours every 6 months. So they're spending basically, and that's 10 hours.
But if you ever participate
work,
in the review process at a company, it's 10 to 20 hours of that week when that stuff goes on.
I guess I hate that stuff so much. Oh my gosh. I can never do it. That's why I can never work for a big company. So they trim out, I'll continue on this flow. Okay. Right. So you do all that, and it's voluntary. So not everybody does it, which is interesting to me, because I feel like if not everybody does it, then how good is it going to be? But anyway, at least the people who care about it do it. Then they trim out the outlying top and bottom scores. And then all the workers are ranked on a scale from 1 to 140, which is their head count. So you're ranked in order based on that vote. If you land at the top of the scale, you get the biggest pay hikes. Those at the bottom may see small or no raise. No one's pay is ever cut. And that's how they set it. It's kind of crazy, but I also kind of like it. I see some problems with it, but this is what sets Expensify apart. Expensify also has no dedicated managers. That's another interesting thing that I'm curious to see how that works in practice.
Including the street, the way the structure is. Other than producing some financials, they really don't have to report to the street either.
Yeah, they don't, because the way it's set up, there's no accountability to the street because of the way the voting shares are set up. Barrett and two of his key people have all the control. To cite the success of this, Barrett says that the average tenure at Expensify is 4 years, compared with some bigger tech companies who see workers leave after about 2 years. That's a sign that is more successful. At the same time, I feel like 4 years is kind of short still, like if this was really successful, it would be more than that. I don't know. Maybe the people who leave after 2 years, right? Most companies, it's because the only way to get a really big pay bump at most companies is to job hop, right? If you stick around, you're not getting the 20% or more pay bump. But with this method, if you're really performing and everybody in the company agrees, they can make the top of the scale, like the top performers get like big pay increases, right? I wonder where Barrett is on the ranking.
Well, if there's no managers, right, there's just more money for all the employees.
And that's probably the best thing about this, actually,
I
David.
will go back in time. This is 15 years ago. People talk, right? People talk about these processes. And I know a manager who was told by another manager, because that's how these things work, right? There's a pool of money every year of a budget. And if you give some of that budget to your employees, that's less budget for you.
Yeah, less for your bonus.
And that's when it comes to raises and these things like this. So maybe Dave's onto something here.
So that thing there, like in parentheses in this article, Expensify has no dedicated managers. I want them to drill into that more. I want to know, how does the company work like that? Because I've heard of other companies like this. There was one other, I can't remember the name. They've been doing it for a long time, very famous. I think it's the company that created like Gore-Tex. I could be totally wrong about this, but I think they are also a small company like Expensify that had no direct managers or no dedicated managers. I could be wrong. There are some other ones that have done this.
The Cloud Accounting Podcast.
Yeah. No direct managers.
Should we jump into app news or think we're...
I mean, we've been in it for the whole show, right?
Yeah, to some extent.
Let's play the music.
I have some app news from Down Under. So there's an app Down Under called DiviPay, D-I-V-I-P-A-Y, not to be confused with Divi, D-I-V-V-Y, which is owned by Bill.com. The reason it's really confusing because they basically do what Divi does. It's spend management, and now they're looking to build out their product offering, but they just took $20 million and they want to build out. They wanted to get into bill payments and come to the U.S. market and grow. Now, that's going to be interesting because how did two companies with the same product have that close of names? Well, I guess we'll find out when they get here. But what's interesting about this raise is one of the people that invested was Practice Ignition's Guy Pearson.
Oh, tell me more. Like why?
Why? He invested.
He invested. Got it.
He invested. Yes.
Ah.
But he's also, he's made a couple other. I think he invested in HubDoc originally. Mm-hmm. He had a little piece of that. So he's really like such a success story, right?
Yeah.
Because he had his own firm, started his firm from scratch, basically. Created Practice Ignition, and he's really been able to utilize some of the money he's made, and he's just been smart and making good decisions and investing in companies along the way. So Fluidly, so this is out of the UK. So Fluidly was like a cash flow forecasting tool.
Did you say Fluidly?
Fluidly. They're a cash flow forecasting tool. They had about 1,300 UK accounting firms. Oak North, which is a bank, purchased 100% of the company. So again, these banks on these marches, right, to own the apps. Affirm's another one of those buy now, pay later companies. And they spun out a secondary company called Resolve, which is going to specialize in doing buy now, pay later for B2B. And they just raised $25 million because they want to offer loans and capital, and they want to get into bill pay. So something to watch coming in the market.
That's a huge opportunity is buy now, pay later for B2B.
Yeah. Except for I have some thoughts on that in another episode when we talk about predictions on that.
Okay.
So Built Technologies. So Built is construction software for big, huge commercial construction projects because, that money has to kind of go in an escrow and there's lien waivers and all that type of stuff. Then it trickles down all the way down to the subcontractors. They announced that they're going to have built-in bill pay, and turns out it's powered by Melio.
Oh, so congratulations.
So they're going to offer it's free. It's part of their product. It's basically the Melio offering built into this app called Built Technologies.
Nice.
Airtable. So we've talked about Airtable and no code. Airtable just took another round at a $735 million round, Series F. It takes their valuation up to $11 billion.
Wow. Where do you think they're going to go with that?
So they have a lot of big companies, right? Because this whole world of no code, and I think you talked about it on the podcast 2 weeks ago about, companies are, when you went on your rant about the IT department, like employees are self-coding. They're just fixing problems themselves, automating these things with tools like Airtable. And they're talking about how Netflix and Shopify use them in more than 300,000 companies. And they said a good portion of the Fortune 500. So it's funny, like in our world, it's a lot of us small guys using it. But what's happening is these big Fortune 500s, people are solving their own problems with Airtable.
You could build a whole consulting business just on top of Airtable, like setting up apps. Somebody was even saying in this thread about it, I don't know if you were on this thread on Twitter, they built an entire app on Airtable.
Yeah, our sponsor Bookkeep, who sponsored before, he basically built it on Airtable first. The whole entire thing. I've seen it.
As like the test product and then rebuilt it? Or is it all built on Airtable?
Because basically he built that for his own. He owned some wine shops and restaurants, and so he kind of started to get into restaurant bookkeeping a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was building as an internal tool, and then it spun out to, now it's a standalone. But yeah, it was built on Airtable. I wouldn't be surprised if some parts are still running on Airtable. Like maybe, because you can do everything with it.
It's a great way to test out whether or not like the product will solve the problem, right? Build it in Airtable. Then if it works, go custom code it.
Well, so let's say you want to, on your website for your firm, you want to do like a 3-tiered pricing.
Like
so
dynamic pricing calculator.
Not even dynamic, but like, the gold, silver, bronze pricing plans, right? $200, $300, $500. Well, you could create a table with all the different features of each of those three. But then because you can change views and there's no code, you can turn them into 3 cards and just embed the cards with the button that says buy now, right? So you can do your planning work in a table like a spreadsheet you're used to doing. Then when you're ready to put it on your website, you just change the view to a card view and embed the cards on your site, and you're done.
That's great.
Right? So it really cuts out extra work of code. Literally, there's no code.
We got a bunch of listener mail. I have 4 emails, but I don't think we have time to do them all justice. So I want to save those.
Let's give gifts for Christmas. Let's do all 4.
All 4 right now?
Are we going to get into discussions on deep discussions?
That's the thing is, it's discussions. Like
okay, we can say this.
Greg wants us to talk about how do we set boundaries with clients and how do we respond to clients, how quickly. Lauren has feedback on QuickBooks Desktop and QBO and why accountants are reluctant to make the switch. We've got feedback on the 150 hours requirement. I've got an email from Thad about the NASBA not going to release the CPA exam data. So I don't want to just rush through them. We'll save them for next week.
A teaser.
And there's probably not going to be that much breaking news, right? So we'll save that. So we'll get to it, guys.
It's a teaser.
Just hold
all
on.
Right.
But we do have a review. I caught this, David. I've been watching to see if they came through. And as a reminder to our listeners, we haven't asked in a while, but the reviews make a really big difference to our ranking in the various podcast players. It helps us get surfaced to new listeners, people who've never heard of the Cloud Accounting Podcast. So if you want to do us a giant favor to close out the year, if you want to give us a present, go write a 5-star review on Apple. You scroll down on your podcast player and you'll see the write a review. You can give us a rating. Give us whatever you think we deserve, but hopefully you feel it's 5 stars. And if you're not an Apple person, you can go on what is the site? Podchaser. Go to podchaser.com, search for the Cloud Accounting Podcast, give us a review, and that really helps us out. This review came in this week. It is from Tycorn CPA. Great info and news for a CPA practice owner. I have listened to every episode since starting my own practice in 2019. Listen to every episode since 2019. Man, that is awesome.
I'm smiling. You can't hear it, but it's when you comprehend that for a second, it's pretty impressive.
I mean, that's like 200 plus episodes. It helps me think through the strategic issues like technology, staffing, and trends in the profession. Thanks to Blake and David for your diligence in bringing us a quality podcast week in and week out. Thanks so much for that review. That makes it all worthwhile, honestly. And if our listeners want to follow you online, David, get in touch with you, where should they do that?
I'm on all the socials at David Leary.
And I am at Blake T. Oliver. Shoot me an email, blake@blakeoliver.com. Let me know your thoughts on these stories or anything we've discussed or what you think we should discuss. I highly encourage you to send me a voice memo, optional, of course, but voice memos we can play on the air. So that's always fun. Send me a voice memo and we'll take a listen. We'll likely play it. That's all I got this week, David.
That's it. Short week, and we'll see everybody in a couple days.
Merry Christmas.
Time for the classifieds. If you're looking to quickly grow a scalable, systematic 7-figure accounting firm without having to work 50 plus hours per week, check out Ryan Lazanis' online coaching membership, Future Firm Accelerate. Sign around Ryan's experience taking his cloud firm from scratch to sale so that you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You'll get online learning and topics that help you automate and systemize all aspects of your firm. You'll get coaching when you need help with implementation, and you'll also join a collaborative community of hundreds of other forward-thinking firm owners. For more details, head over to www.futurefirmaccelerate.com.
Hey, podcast listeners, it's Blake, and I wanted to let you know about a new show I'm working on with CPA/comedian Greg Kite and blogger/former CPA Caleb Newquist. It's called Oh My Fraud, and it's a podcast all about financial crimes. That's right, a true crime podcast for accountants by accountants. Caleb and Greg are going to come together every couple weeks to unpack their favorite frauds and explore the circumstances, psychology, and interpersonal dynamics involved. They also fully indulge in victim blaming the defrauded widows, orphans, infirm, and feeble-minded because who can resist? If you fancy yourself a trusted advisor or prefer your true crime with spreadsheets instead of corpses, listen to this show to learn what to watch out for and to keep your clients, your firm, and even yourself safe. To subscribe, go to ohmyfraud.com or search Oh My Fraud on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Want to get the word out about your newsletter, webinar, party, Facebook group, podcast, ebook, job posting, or that fancy Excel macro you just created? Why not let the listeners of the Cloud Accounting Podcast know by running a classified ad? Hit the show notes for the link to get more info.